This is the Proton Series 1 Type A 11mm pickleball paddle, most notably used by professional Andre Daescu, and in my opinion, it is the most exciting paddle launch since the Gen 3 Yolas and the Gearbox Pro Power. Now, you probably haven't seen many of these on your local courts yet, and that's because they've been back ordered for months, and it's not exactly clear when they'll start taking new orders again. Okay, real quick, it's July 10th and I've been working on this video for like a month now. I just found out a couple days ago that Proton is launching on Pickleball Central tomorrow on July 11th, which is why I was trying to finish this video by tonight. But I just watched Pickleball Studio's latest podcast where they mentioned that Protons were being pulled from the APP Newport tournament because the surface friction was higher than the USAP tested models. Later on in this video, I talk about why the surface friction seems to increase over time, and basically it's because there's a smooth matte layer that kind of wears away and reveals a much grippier surface. They also mentioned that pop and power seem to be increasing after a break-in period as well. I have no idea if this paddle is going to be banned, but I wanted to give you a heads up now because personally, I bought a Gen 3 Yola from a retailer and I'm still trying to get my refund, so please keep that in mind. Okay, back to the review. So what's with all the hype? This time, it's not about pop or power, it's about spin. These paddles are known to have incredible spin, and it's because of this rubber-like material that's never been seen before on a pickleball paddle. Right now, these paddles are priced at $280, which is what the most premium paddles are going for at the moment, unless you're looking at collector's items. On screen, I'll show some of the official specs compared to the measurements I got myself if you want to pause right now and take a look. Alright, let's get into it. I'm going to talk about the spin metrics in a moment, but first I want you to see and hear these paddles up close. I'll show my carbon fiber Gen 2 Scorpius, and then I'll show the Proton. So we have to talk about the crazy new Nanotac Surface. When you first get the paddle, you can tell the surface feels rubbery, but not as much as you might think. It's a really thin layer and it doesn't compress when you push on it like a ping pong paddle would. Also, everyone says there's a break-in period for this paddle, and that's because it feels like there's a smooth matte coating on the surface. But after playing with it for only a couple of days, I could already feel that matte coating wearing away and revealing a much grippier material, especially around the center of the paddle where you hit the most balls. I don't think it would take more than a week or so to unlock that grippier layer, so the break-in period isn't as serious as something involving the core like the Gearbox or Vatic Oni. So about the spin. From my results, it's going to be quite obvious that I don't have the best serve out there, but I basically just hit 5 big serves straight ahead and measured the RPMs. I didn't really try to change my serve in a way that would maximize topspin. I just hit my normal serve. But all of my tests were done on the same day, and I tried to use the same exact technique across a few different paddles, including the 20mm Selkirk Lux Control and my 14mm Gen 3 Scorpius. Okay, I'm just going to show you my results. So I hit 5 serves per paddle and found the average RPMs for each serve. And then I took the average of the 5 averages to get the final average in the yellow boxes. So yeah, the Proton had the highest RPMs, but not by much. For a regular player like me, the paddle's not going to magically allow me to hit a 2300 RPM serve. But without even really trying, it's giving me an extra 10% boost, which is pretty good. And on certain shots like forehand and backhand rolls, you can get some crazy spin with this thing. I'm going to show some footage and you can just see how low that ball dips because of that top spin. In general, I also found it easier to get spin in the soft game compared to carbon fiber. In the soft game, you're not getting a lot of ball compression, so less of the paddle face is in contact with the ball. But the Proton seems to get more traction with its rubbery surface, whereas in the same situation, a ball might slide off of a carbon fiber face due to a lack of surface area contact. So the next thing you probably want to know is, what does it feel like to play with this paddle? Well, first of all, this paddle is the standard shape version, which has a long 5.75 inch usable handle length. The main paddle that I use is the Yola Gen 2 14mm Scorpius, which is one of the few other paddles with a standard shape and a long handle. So it's a similar feel in terms of the shape and the handle length, but the Proton feels a lot heavier. The static weight was about 8 ounces, which is pretty average and the same as my Scorpius, but the swing weight was 115, which is on the higher end for a standard shape paddle. In comparison, my Scorpius had a default swing weight of 111, and even after I added my tungsten tape setup of 0.05 ounces on the sides and 0.025 ounces on the top, it still only came out to a swing weight of 113. All of this to say that the Proton feels dense and kind of heavy, and there's not a whole lot of room to customize with weighted tape. Off the face, it's not a very crisp feeling. Some may even say that it feels like a wooden plank with a coating of rubber on it. Personally, I got used to the feeling pretty quickly, and I've come to enjoy using the paddle as a whole, but I assume there will be a lot of people that simply do not like the feel. And I wouldn't recommend the 15mm because this paddle already doesn't get a lot of pop. But what this paddle does have going for it is that density and heaviness, which creates a more stable feeling than I ever could have imagined from an 11mm. Like sometimes I would hit the ball near the top of the paddle, and whether it's from the quality and density of the core or the pure swing weight, it just does not feel flimsy, which I like. And it's even making me consider adding more weight to the top of my Scorpius. However, because of that feeling of stiffness, you do get a lot of vibration and feedback in the handle, which could cause some hand fatigue if you're not used to it. Proton added a really nice quality padded handle, but unfortunately a lot of that vibration still comes through. So you may or may not have noticed already, but I'm borrowing my Proton from a friend, and the butt cap fell off after a couple weeks of normal use. He told me it just started slowly coming off, and I think he tried to glue it back on, but it didn't really work. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that this happened, and let me know in the comments if you've heard other reports of this. So I'm going to try to summarize all the main pros and cons here. I'm very picky with my shapes, and thankfully this is a standard shape with a long handle, which I love. Again, the static and swing weights might be a little high out of the box for some people, but for me it's pretty much perfect. I really like the sweet spot and sturdiness of the paddle around the edges. Blocks and resets felt pretty good. I don't mind the unique feeling of the 11mm core with that Nanotac Surface, but in my opinion, I think a lot of people will be turned away from this paddle purely based on the feel. The biggest thing for me personally was the somewhat average levels of pop on this paddle. Coming from the Gen 3 Scorpius 14mm to the Gen 2 Scorpius 14mm, and now to the Proton, I do think it'll take a while for me to get used to the lower levels of pop. The power was good and the drives are fine, and with that extra 10 to 20% spin, I'm looking forward to hitting some nasty dipping drives on people. And where this paddle absolutely kills it is when you're at the kitchen and your opponents are back, and you're just hitting crazy topspin rolls on people. It's super tough to deal with. So in conclusion, I really like this paddle. I was going to buy one tomorrow morning on Pickleball Central, but I'm honestly not sure if I should at this point because I still haven't gotten my Gen 3 Yola refund, and I'm just worried that this is going to turn into another one of those situations. But I would like to give the Proton a shot as my main paddle, but we'll see what happens. And lastly, shout out to my homie David, aka Smiley, for letting me borrow his brand new Proton paddle for this review when it's been sold out for months and many existing customers still haven't received their units yet, which is pretty crazy. But really appreciate you, and thanks for helping me get this review out at the perfect time. And yeah, that's the review. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.